All right. So yesterday in open development, I posted current savings with the Delta serialization changes, and now we need to actually just actually test those changes or make sure they're working to other clients, which they may not be. This has not yet been tested, so let's see. All right. Um, so it does seem to actually be synchronizing. There's a really nasty desynchronization going on there. I don't know if it is. Let me see if it's actually going to the end or what could be going on with that. Okay, so it is going to the end almost. Looks like it's stopping just short. Let's check something real quick just to make sure it's not the code that's making it behave kind of funny. All right, let's see. Yeah, so it looks like I'm actually doing some. Well, I thought that was maybe doing some prediction, but I'm not there. And I'm not there. Okay, so something is going on, but I don't know if it's the new Delta stuff or not. So what I'm going to do real quick is just these are both stopped. And I'm just going to toggle stable mode, which will go back to the old system. I am running test on the Delta compression stuff for prediction, which will be coming to all of Fishnet, shortly after it's stable, and just making sure everything's kind of working right. Okay, it's not moving at all for the break something. I bet what happened is this one didn't rebuild using the stable mode, so I probably have to restart it. Wrong button. Not really prediction 2 so much as it is the Delta compression stuff. It's just us making its appearance first in prediction 2, so that's what I am testing on. Apparently this stable version is not working at all. That's not great. I don't know what I could have done. Maybe I messed up my defines something. Let's see, void write replicate. Okay, so it is using old ones there. If we go to this reader, well, I'm not sure why that is suddenly not working. Let me try a different scene just to make sure it's not. I don't know why it would just be the scene, but try a different one. Wait, was I in the wrong scene the whole time? Oh no, okay. Yeah, so this is still trying to use the freaking wrong thing. That's why it's doing that. It still thinks it's in beta on this editor when it should be in stable. So that's just parallel sync stuff, you know? Are you talking about for prediction? I assume you are. Okay, so now it's working. Now let's go back to the rigid body scene. Yeah, so this is doing it as well, but it could very well just be the setup here because I haven't really messed with this in some time. But the results are the same, which means it's most likely working. But this isn't the testing I usually use. I usually use the prediction CC scene because it's a little bit easier to log. All right, so I'm gonna change this to 10. And I'm gonna go to this. Actually, I'm gonna change it to 5 for the tick rate. The bandwidth consumption right now is about 45% if you were to average it. Less bandwidth used as of right this moment, but we're expecting it to be around 90-something% less by the time this is all said and done. Excuse me. That's. Oh yeah, it could be. Maybe it's just not picking it up. I might not have been talking loud enough. I'm not sure what burst and jobs has to do with the prediction. It didn't really have anything to do with that. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to check the output and make sure that it's the same. I very much expect it to be the same. So this is again unstable mode, so let me just check that. And give it a second for that guy to turn around. Any moment now. Not moving. I'm pretty sure that's the script. So let me just go over here. I have some stuff in here that basically moves it automatically, and that's probably way too high. Let me just do a couple tests here. Okay, there we go. I had to sneeze twice. That's why I cut off my mic for a moment. So I need to do something if I need to do a quick check here. To only print if the owner, not the owner, well, it depends really. If base.is server initialized and base.is owner, or not base.is server initialized and not is owner. So I want the client to print the server one, and I want the server to print itself, basically. Right now it's printing both. I'm pretty sure everything's working. I just need to double check it before I actually continue onward. All right, so let's see. Up to 66, it was moving right, and it started moving left. Exactly what this got as well. So I'm pretty sure it's working. If it wasn't working, you should see it pretty quickly. We would see the nastiness and the jitter and whatnot. So let me go ahead and comment this out, and then actually no, leave that as it is, and then switch back to the beta. So that was working as a stable mode, which means it better be working because that's the stable version. Now we're going to switch both of these to beta, which uses the new compression stuff. Okay, so hit play there. Oh, crap. Okay. So we got a lot of errors here. I'm almost positive this is just kind of a gotcha with how the Roslyn stuff works. So I think what we have to do is just go up here, and I'm just going to rename it. Basically, I'm just going to force a compile so that the code gen runs over that code. Oh, come on. It was working a moment ago. All right, well, let's see. What could be going on? Could end up under our test. Now I gotta look at the solution. I gotta go under the test here, and it should be right here. Oh nope, it's over here. I forgot Rider displays it slightly differently. Okay, so it says it. Oh, you know what? It doesn't automatically pick up which methods to serialize yet. Making that possible is super easy. I just haven't done it yet. I have to add the include serialization attribute for now, but that's not going to be something that's going to be an issue on release. Yeah, allergies are like kicking my butt today. I don't usually have allergies. Like, the only thing that really affects me is cut grass. Okay, so it's moving back and forward, back and forward. This. That was. Okay, well, that's not great. It seems that whenever I move, or it seems like it is doing something funny there. I don't know if you guys can probably see that on the video. That's not normal. Let me try reconnecting. So that doesn't look right. Definitely not great. Okay, so let's see what's going on there. I need to check and make sure it's. So it flips at 292, which I believe is right. Yeah, but. See, 276 is when it's going right. Yep, and then 277 through 291 should be left. So that's all correct. So let's check this out. These should all be 1 tick increments. I don't see anything wrong with that. It makes me wonder if it's a smoother that's just being problematic. It is a really low tick rate too, so it could possibly be the smoother with the tick rate. Yeah, it's probably what it is. Let's go off and then just set it to a flat interpolation of 2 ticks, and let's try this again. Still being weird as heck. It's more normal. Might have just been adjusting timing. When it's such a low tick rate like this, it can take a couple ticks for the timing to actually like adjust the link up the server with the client. that could take, that could take a good 5 or 6 ticks, and when the tick rate's 5, that takes, over a whole second. So once it's synced up, it should be good. So that looks to be all right, and the results are proper as well. So I'm going to take that code out real quick here. That code being the debug. And now we're going to try and... It's because I'm running a 5 tick rate, so it's only updating every 200 milliseconds. And the interpolation is 2, so that's another 400 milliseconds on top of that. I was mostly looking at the inputs to make sure the inputs were right, more than anything. What I need to do now is I need to try and make it so... Let me actually show you something. I don't need the second editor open for this, I don't believe. Just minimize it. Yeah, that's normal. It's only moving every 200 milliseconds. So those jumps you see are basically the physics time steps. That's completely normal. All right, so one thing I wanted to point out is I don't have the bandwidth display on this one. Put this in the bottom left. All right. I got to add the statistics manager too. There we go. I think Valorant uses like 120 or something, and CSGO uses 64. So looking at about 170. I mean, it's going up occasionally, but it looks like mostly it's the low tick rate. It's so inconsistent. It's because it has to send more data on some ticks because of the tick rate. We'll bump it up to 30. That'll give us a better idea. Okay, so I'm going to just increase the amount moved real quick to 150 instead of just moving 15 ticks. All right, so we're going to be looking at basically the difference. So it's using roughly 1 kilobyte per second right now. That's with the new stuff. So if we go... Also, something to keep in mind is that's also with the reconcile. That's not just the replicate, and the reconcile doesn't have any delta stuff yet. It will. It's going to get the same treatment as the replicates. You know what? Okay, so this is our base right here. It's about 1 kilobyte per second, and that's without sending any replicates. I have to actually uncomment some code real quick, or comment some code rather. Right here, it's not adding the owner of the object because it doesn't need to send it to the owner of the object. This is state forwarding. So that's why it's not actually doing anything. So while it's actually sending a state to itself now, we're looking at roughly 2 kilobytes per second, give or take, and that's without the new compression. If we go ahead and add on, re-enable the new compression. Okay, so it's not a terrible amount less, but it is less. So it was about 2, and now it's about 177. And that's because it's not yet complete. It's going to be a lot less than that. It's probably going to be closer to like 110 or 112, or sorry, 1.10, 1.12. Well, let's see if we can do that now. I know it's calling the list version instead of this one. This is... Okay, so when it's sending two other clients receive data, it's using the queue one, but I think I can actually use the list one for both, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, this isn't quite being used yet, so we'll come back to that. So let's go up here, and I'm just going to do a quick debug.log count plus comma plus collection count. So all right, so it's sending 2 as redundancy, and it's 3 in the collection, so that's fine. So what we're going to do here is previous value equals collection count greater than count. So basically, we're going to check if our collection that we're reading and send past inputs is larger than the amount we want to send. Then we're going to send previous. I think I'm going to do this in multiple lines. Previous equals should be values, and it'll be offset -1. Otherwise, it's going to equal default, because there's no way we can have a previous value. All right, so we don't need the, this doesn't necessarily apply anymore. What this was doing is basically if it's the first write for the replicate, basically the first data being written, and it'll write the data in full, and it's gonna write the delta for the rest of that. But we don't want to do that every single time. We just want to do it occasionally to make sure, like, in case packets got lost, they can pick it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do option equals root serialize for the delta serialize option. We're basically going to override this. And full serialize, like I said, means it sends the full thing. Root serialize means it's I'm not going to go into explaining because it's not really relevant, but it's only going to send the changes it needs to send, more or less. All right, so now we're down to 146 roughly. Now there could still be headers and stuff contributing to that. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to do this: int start length equals length, and then at the bottom here I'm going to do debug.log replicate length, and I'm going to add in length minus start length. Okay, so this is going to show us how much is actually using for the replicate. I'm going to move this up here so we can test it on the stable one too, just so you can see the difference. All right, go ahead and fire it up. No, it's not out yet, but we're hoping very soon. Very, very soon. All right, so this is using, oh, you know what I realized? The replicate in this one here is really small. Like, it's only a few things. I want to use a more realistic structure to show more realistic savings. Obviously, it depends. If you have a larger structure, you're actually going to save more with the new stuff, because it's going to compress it better. So let me just take this code here, and that's not what I wanted. There we go. I don't think any type exists. No, that's fine. I don't need that. So let's go here and then go here. Copy these. This is basically just making a mock data, what people probably use. So this is just kind of a guesstimate. It's not anything actual per se. Oh no. Okay, good. I don't use Rider much, so like I accidentally just double clicked that and it made my thing disappear, and I was like, what happened? Yeah, let's just see if there's any errors. No errors. There should be errors. Oh, it's just not used. Now there should be errors. Where's the errors? Show me the errors. What do you mean usages were not found? Oh, because probably because the signature changed. I kind of expected it to show me errors here, but it's not showing me errors. Oh, there it is. I'm under the. All right. Like I said, I'm kind of new to Rider, so I have to get used to it. Alrighty then. So now I'm going to test it with a new, more realistic structure. All right, so the length is 3. Oh, it just went up. So I don't know if you guys saw that. It went up to 6 for a brief moment. It's whenever it changes directions. You'll see it go up to 6. Well, I know it did. I saw it goes up to 6 when it changes directions because the values are changing. There it is. You're probably not catching it, but we'll say 1.4 or roughly 1.4. So now the thing is with this is only with one redundancy. So if you have undesirable network conditions, one might not necessarily be enough. It's hard to say. So now we're going to test with 2 redundancy. And you can see it only went up 1 extra byte. So adding on redundancy doesn't really affect it a whole lot. We just added 0.03 kilobytes per second, which whatever. Now let's go ahead and test it beforehand without the Delta stuff. All right. So it was 143 previously, and now it is a lot more. Recall the base was 1 kilobyte per second, right? So if we take the actual, well, I guess we can just use this. The data, replicate data is 100, right? And it was sending on average 4. So minus 1, you're saving about 96% in this case. Now, keep in mind, this is only changing one value like every 5 seconds. So let's change it up a little bit here. Just give us something a little more realistic. We're going to have it bounce around quite a bit. Oh, well, this is still going to be the same. It's going to be a flat 100. So even if you are using only an interpolation of 1, it's going to be a flat 67. So let's remember that. You know, it didn't really change much. This was averaging like 1.39 or 1. I think it was 1.37 to 1.38, and it's only adding on occasion like an extra 0.5 kilobytes per second. That's pretty much nothing. So we'll take this here. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, I mean, it's going to be 15 because that's what I set it to. Duh. So we're going to do, and then it has to send this twice. So we're going to be looking at 3 times 15 plus 6 plus 6 divided by, I think it's actually going to be 13 because reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13. Okay, my bad. So 3 times 13 plus 12 for 2 6s. and we're going to divide that by 15. We're looking at 3.4 on average per thing, and that's with the values changing every so often, every time you see it bounce. So we'll say that divided by, what was it, 67 minus 1, 95% savings. Still very, very significant. So yeah, I would say our estimates, I said it was going to be like 90%, and it probably will be closer to 90% in a real like world environment. The tests are showing 95% savings, but still both are really freaking good. So all we have to do really is under the new serializer option, there is a catch to this though. Savings are going to be a little less. Probably why it's showing 96. This is only ever sending the delta. It's never actually sending the full packet for eventual consistency, and that means if someone desyncs, they're having a bad day because they're never going to get the full packet. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be very hacky. It's going to be, let's say, time manager TM equals instant finder time manager, and then it's going to be if actually let's do tick rate. I think is a short. Come on, there we go. Uint tick equals tm.local tick. We're gonna do if tick divided by tick rate equals 0. It's not divided by, I'm sorry, that's a modular. So if tick modular tick rate equals 0, which basically meaning if this is at the top of every tick, so about every second, or if tick modular tick rate divided by 2 equals 0. So this is at the top of every tick or every second and every half second. So this is basically twice a second we're going to be sending eventual consistency according to this test. Option equals full serialized. Now also, we only need to do it on the first write. So it's actually not going to be that much more expensive. We're going to do if first write and one of these. And the first write can just be set false here. This is all just kind of test code. That's why it's so disgusting, but it's all right. Fire it up. It doesn't look like it changed. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so it hasn't changed. I don't think it's actually sending the. Oh, duh. It's because I'm setting it here. Okay, so let's try again. Full write was never true. That's why it wasn't working. There we go. So now you can see it's no longer like 137 to so-and-so. It's now this. This is with basically mock eventual consistency. So this is a little more realistic. We're going to do some quick checks here just to see. So we're looking at going to be after the next 36. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Seems kind of weird. I would expect it to I would expect this to be every half second too. So let me just check. 57, 57, 56. So it should also be twice. Yeah, so it is every half. I'm gonna add it on the little I'm gonna add in another debug. Something just doesn't seem right here. It probably is right. It's just the logs are kind of confusing me. All right. So let's see. At 36, the first one was at 3.72. And the next one is at... Yeah, so it is every half a second, as I expected. It's doing it properly. That means... we go up here. This is where basically the new cycle starts. So we're at... let me get the calculator. 3 times 1, 2, 3... 3. I'm just gonna add them up manually. Plus 6 plus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Plus 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus 36. So over a second, we're looking at 84. I'm just gonna double check something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, so every 30 ticks, that's right. So divided by 30, we're looking at about, how did it go down? I missed a number somewhere. Something's not right. Not right at all. So it should be 36 plus 9 plus 12 plus 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, plus the 36 again. There we go. That's more accurate. So it's averaging about 4 bytes per second, which is still really good compared to the previous 67% minus 1. Oh. We're still saving 94% instead of 96%. And that's with eventual consistency. So the results are still better than I expected. Again, this is not a real world test, but it should show you, this is definitely an idea. I think achieving 90% plus savings is not at all unrealistic. And if I were to, of course, increase the state interpolation, it's just going to send like an extra byte per thing, which, whatever. So instead of 4 bytes, it'll just be 5 bytes. Which is still going to be really good. So 5 divided by the previous 67 minus 1, 92, 93% savings. So yeah, actually no, it's going to be a lot more than that because it's actually 100. It was using 100 before, I believe. So it'd be 4 divided by 100. Yeah. So you're going to be sitting in about the 95% savings ballpark, 90 to 95. I'm gonna say 90% because I don't want to like oversell it. So that seems to be working just fine. Now I'm going to get some water real quick. So I will just put up a little note here. Be back in 5 minutes, which is 5 after the hour. All right, so I'll be right back, guys. Let's see. If you need help, you can ask for help in the chat. Don't know if I'm going to be able to answer, but yeah, just ask in the chat. All right, so we kind of have like a makeshift eventual consistency here for the sake of testing. I'm gonna back code up, even though it's not great looking right now. Let's back this all up. I need to add this to the ignore. Back up with the push. Go. I am trying Rider, but what made me switch is that in Rider I can see the generated files using the new technology we're using for the Delta sterilizers, and in Visual Studio it wouldn't show me the files. That's kind of annoying. I mean, it would show me the files inside Visual Studio outside of Unity, but not inside Unity, and that's where I needed them. So that's primarily why. Also, well, it doesn't work in Unity apparently. I would say also in Rider, I was able to actually navigate to the definitions inside the generated code. For example, I could go here and press F12, but it doesn't look like it's working inside Unity, unfortunately. So Unity is kind of the common denominator of what the problem is, but Rider just did a better job of handling it. So yeah, let me go ahead and close out of this. Next thing we got to do though is look at the forwarding. So I'm going to go over to this, and I don't even know if it's working just yet. So I'm gonna go here, down here, replicate length equals blah blah blah, etc. Okay, so let's see if the forwarding is even working right now. I mean, I know it works, but like, I need to see if I can get results with my current setup. Let's see. Stop the client. We've only the server. Connect. Can't see window. There we go. I can't move. I did something. Can't move. It's like bouncing me back. Yeah, I don't know if that's a see if this is still interesting. Let me see if that's a problem of stable versus beta, or if that's just something in my testing. ID of -1 is unset. Basically means that it's not a valid client. So you're probably for the owner client ID. Well, I mean, if it's just an owner, that just means there's no owner. You shouldn't really be checking the ID though. You should be checking if it says like is valid instead. Yeah, so that's a problem. The issue appears to be specific to. Let me see if it does it when this is disconnected. Specific to the new stuff. Whoops. Okay then. That's broken. Need to fix that. I'm gonna still debug this here. I'm gonna put like a big A in front of it. copy so I know which is which. I'm not entirely sure why it's being funny with the queue. Not yet anyway, of course. The code should be relatively the same. Like it wants to move it, but then it's just like, nah, go back. It's not going back all the way. That is interesting. Like I don't know what is that's very weird. I know it's the new stuff. I don't know why yet. Let's go here to where I'm using this and see if this is the issue. So I'm going to take this method and take the one we have that's I commented out too much stuff. I think Ryder just, I don't know what happened there. Like it highlighted too much text or something. No, I didn't catch it, I guess, but all right. So changing this one up because the other one's using a list one seems to work fine, but this one is not, however, working fine. So let's go to the reader here, and we're going to just copy this one, and all right. This might still not work, depending on. Well, I'll be able to know in a second, actually. Oh, you know, this is using the list. So it's like it's not even getting results or something. Which, you know, that's fine. The queue is only used for when it's relaying it to other clients. Why is it not? I wonder if the read is even being called on client host. I think it's not. I think the issue might just be in the read in general. Let me just go over to this and do a nice little error. And then run it as client host. I don't think the read is at all being processed. Oh, what the hell it is. Okay then. Okay. It's reading it, just ignoring it. I wonder if this has something to do with the other code I added in where I wasn't. Here we go. Alarm going off there. Okay. Try again. Still, I don't know why it's moving back. That's kind of weird. The server shouldn't be moving back like that. It should just be accepting whatever the latest thing is, unless like the server is fighting it. But we know it's not the case in the original one, like the stable version. So something's being funky. Jeez, I wasn't expecting resistance in this part, but let me re-enable this. So if we're going to do the opposite, we're going to do if is server and not owner, we're going to print, or if not server and is owner. Get rid of that. All right, so let's test it out. I'm going to move left. Stop. All right, so I'm going to actually lower the tick rate so it's not spamming as much. All right, so I'm going to start moving left. Stop. Okay, so on the client, I moved left for didn't actually print it, which means I probably did something wrong there. What? Oh, damn it. That was my fault. I broke Rider. There we go. Like I said, I'm still getting used to Rider, so it's gonna take me a little bit in that sense. Now I need to go back to this and actually open up the controller again, because I just closed that on my Windows on accident. Oh, that's cool though. I do like that. So you can open it in the same window, and it replaces the tabs for what you had it in that last window. So like these are two different editors, so they're going to open in two different projects. That I like. It actually, I'm sure you guys maybe saw that, but when I opened it in the second project, it only opened the scripts I had open for that particular project. And when I went back and opened a file in the main project, it brought up all my old scripts I had open for that project too, even though it's using the same window. I really like that. That was nice. Okay, so that was cool. I like that. So if not, I forgot to put the not server. There we go. So if server and not owner, or if not server and owner. All right, so try again. It looks like Rider just had another nice feature I really liked. Stop clicking around here. Okay. All right, again, I'm going to move very briefly here. What? Oh, it's still desynced. Yeah, it's still being funny. Okay, so let me clear it out. Just try moving for a moment. All right, so I moved from 79 through 83. See what the server got. It got 79, 80, 81, 82. Did not get 83. Got 0, so it's missing 1. It doesn't really explain why the server was bouncing around. That's kind of weird. Don't know why it was doing that. So the reader is probably busted. Let me take off some of this stuff here. Although it was reading it as client host, but I don't think it was actually doing anything with the code. So if I go over here, yeah, so whenever it's client host, it does get its own replicate. This is just so I can track the bandwidth, basically. So I have an accurate readout. In other words, if I didn't send it for client host to the server and whatnot, that bandwidth wouldn't show in the bandwidth meter. And that's the only reason I have it like that, is so I can see it inside the meter to get an accurate idea of what bandwidth is being used. So it does send it, it does read the values, it just doesn't use them if server or if from the server or host. So my theory is that the reader is not reading the data right, and probably we're not seeing that on the host because it just reads it parses the data and then discards it. So the reader's probably not working. Almost guarantee that's what it is. Well, I shouldn't say that. It could also be that the writer is not working. Maybe some reason when the client's sending it, it is sending the wrong value as opposed to the server sending it, but that's less likely. So I'm going to wait a minute. Oh, okay. Let me just check. Okay. So it shouldn't be, it's not printing that one. This. I'm going to add a debug here real quick. I'm going to do debug.log warning. Text doesn't really matter. We're going to do if selection count is greater than count. I just wanted to see if it's actually sending like the same thing here. I imagine it is. I don't see why it wouldn't because of how the client works. It doesn't really make sense why it wouldn't be, but so it should be printing true as a warning on the server, of course, and on the client here. Client only. Or, you know, just... Oh, it's because I wasn't moving. That makes sense. Oh, you can see here, too, this one's messed up. So, that tells me it's got to be the reader. It's got to be the reader. Because it's seeing the server wrong as well. Something is going on with the reader. Okay. Now the problem is I can't. I know it's somehow getting a value that's wrong, but complicated from here. I am wondering why, however, the debug here. You notice the stack trace follows to this script, but the actual line is here. It's kind of annoying. This isn't even generated code, so I don't know why it's doing that. Delta compression is going to happen for sync vars, yes. So int values or precision values, whole values, structures, classes, etc. Yes, it's going to happen for sync vars relatively soon too, because I think sync vars have everything built in already for the most part to utilize it. All right, so I don't think it's the writer. I mean, it could be the writer, and it's just not writing the last value. You know, it'd be a good test. Let's just do option equals full serialize. Let's just always write the full value and see if that fixes it. Yeah, that looks like that fixed it. Let me take that. Let me just do another test just to make sure it's consistently quote unquote fixed. Yeah, that looks pretty normal. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. So I think, I mean, it could be the writer or reader still. It could still be either one. I'm just trying to figure out what solves it and what doesn't solve it. So maybe it could be that, well, let me test one more time, just make sure that this is in fact broken again without always sending the full serialize, and then I'll explain why. Yeah, see, it's already doing it again. So whenever I don't send the full serialize, it's busted. So that means one of two things. It means that either the last option is probably not delta serializing properly, and it's serializing empty instead of the actual value. That's a possibility. Or it's something in the reader which is also causing it. I'm sorry, I just had another realization I wanted to check real quick. Okay, so it's still really nasty with a state interpolation of 1. I just wanted to make sure. So, or the reader could be reading the delta wrong. So let's, I guess, go look at this stuff. I'm going to have to add in debug and see exactly what's going wrong, and that's going to be a lot of spam. So with that said, I'm going to go back to this here. Yeah, I know it went to the wrong line. I just don't know why it does that. All right. So I'm going to comment all this out because the less stuff that can trigger my debug and checks and stuff, the easier it's going to be. So first thing is I'm going to clear this warning. Change this to 0. Go. And I'm just going to make sure it's still broken with only 1 value. I'm sure it will be. I don't see why it wouldn't be. All right. Still very much broken as expected. That's fine. So let's go ahead and take this code and comment it out because I don't really need this mucking up everything. So the delta serializer is not for this one. Let me get rid of these real quick. I'm gonna do class any type. Oh, you know what? This is, I know the search is different for Rider than it is Visual Studio. Maybe it's a structure. Okay, yeah, it's a structure. So I'm gonna go over here and comment this out, and then I'm going to, I'm just gonna comment this whole thing out. There we go. Make sure that doesn't make any violation errors. Perfect. Okay. So now I can go to this, which is only going to have the reconcile delta and the move data for the one we're working on. All right. So if it's a full write or full serialized, that's, we know it's working. So the only change difference is if, let me check something. It should be using root serialize if right. Okay, it's using root serialize if not full serialize, and that's important because look here. You know, oh, I don't actually need this check here because the total flags won't be 0 if using root serialize. So this check is redundant, so I can actually remove this here, per se, or this bit here, because they're not going to be 0 because the number on the full serialize option, I don't know if it's going to let me navigate to it. Not, of course not. Delta serialize. Yeah, so root and full serialize are both gonna have values, so it's never gonna be 0. So basically, the reason I was saying it's important though is because if it's not a root serializer, it doesn't necessarily have to write the change. So let's say if the serialize option is unset, which if I were to try to, let me show you here. Actually, this is a good example. If I were to do up here, public class, or I guess structure, doesn't really matter. You're gonna generate for me. Come on. Oh, here we go. So now basically it's doing a check on the serializer for whatever, but you'll notice that it's not passing in the delta serializer options, which means they're going to default to unset, which, as you can see, they default to unset. I know it's like really long, it's kind of hard to read, but this is Codegen for you. And being unset, that means that if none of this changes, so if no values inside that class change, the total flags is going to be 0. And it's just simply change is going to be total flags doesn't equal 0. Therefore, it's going to be no change and not write it. And that's fine because it's a nested version and we don't need to write it. But when you're writing the root version, or the whatever the initial class that's going through is, you have to write changed even if there's nothing changed. So otherwise you won't be able to read that nothing's been changed. So that's why it's so important that the change has value if it's the root. Anyway, I got sidetracked. That was not necessary to explain, but maybe some of you now have great new insight or something. I don't know. So going forward, let's look at the generated code again. So it's checking if that's the reconcile data. I'm like, that's not right. I need to fix this too. I need to add a delta writer for vector 3s. It can generate them, but Unity ones are finicky sometimes. Because there's a lot of things in Unity you can't access. Like you can access it via properties, but you can't like assign values, which is needed by serializers. So going here, it is increasing the flags to include the single change of horizontal. So that's the only time that makes sense. So let me look at the reader real quick. Where are you? Where did it put it? It should be under, here we go. So this is the read for, we're going to read the total flags. We're going to convert it to options, just for the sake of legibility. If it contains a full serialize, it's just going to return a full read. This is checking if it has 4 as the flag, which it would if we were to write the horizontal value. And if it does, then it's going to read a delta of the horizontal value using the previous value, which is value 0. As you can see, it says previous value. It doesn't say that, but it is. And otherwise, it's going to use whatever the previous value was if the value has not changed. The problem could, I don't see any issues with this. trying to think of how I can debug this. So let me go here and debug.log reading single delta. And if I go over to the reader here where I read the replicate, I'm going to do debug.log doing read for tick and should be tick plus u and I, like shown below. So what should happen is it's going to read this, and then it's going to say, okay, doing a read for this tick, and then it's going to call the read delta, which is this here, and if that calls the read single, sorry, we should see this come through. I believe that makes sense. So let me just check it out here. I should be able to test that it's client host too, but it's not client host. We did confirm that it was coming through, right? Pretty sure we did. What the heck? I am fairly certain we confirmed it was coming through. I wonder if it was only for the if it was only coming through on this client whenever this client was active and sending it over. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. I mean, we do send over the replicate to track bandwidth, but I think maybe it just I thought it was reading it and then discarding results, but it might just be discarding the results as it gets them. It doesn't actually affect the meters if it does that either, or negatively I should say. Let me just cancel that. I don't want to do that. Give me 1 sec to set everything up here again. Oh, okay. I just reread what you wrote, Daniel. I'm sorry, I didn't read it very clear first time. You're saying it's doing it because of this. Right. I gotcha. That is good to know. That makes sense. I didn't realize that, but that makes total sense. Thanks for notifying me of that. It's like so much crap open right now. I do need to clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna go back down here and make sure my print is working, and back on. So I know it's not working for unowned objects either. So what I'm gonna do is just go back to the server, printing its value, and then printing what we get from the server. Okay. Let me clear some of this out. I have to check something quick. I'm looking on the client side and it actually looks normal, which is not right. I do know sometimes with CodeGen it acts up unless you like refresh the file, and I'm gonna be so mad if that's what's going on. Because it looks normal. Okay. I'm going to add in something here that says, I'm not going to read it if it's coming from the client or if it's server. If the server started. I'm trying to just clean up the debug here. Breakpoints don't really work in multiplayer testing because stuff is always coming in and whatnot. You're just going to clog everything up and bad stuff's going to happen. Probably going to take a break here soon. Got some things to do. I'll be working on this later today. But it seems like it's working fine now. Okay then. I do need, let me just make sure I'm not sending the full. That was a solution before. Oh, I am. Derp. Okay. I'm going to add a check here. If option equals full serialize. B.getTick. All right, that way I can track which tick the server is actually sending a full serialize on. Now matter because I have the client here printing whenever the delta's called along with the tick, and the delta's not going to be called on a full serialize, so. Okay, there we go. And it was not magically working, which I'm happy because I do not want it to magically work. That would just make things even harder to debug. All right, so let's see what we got here on the client. So doing read for ticks so and so, so and so, so and so. Ooh. I don't actually see the. That should be calling way more often. How often is this calling? 59. Every twice? Something's not right. Should be calling way more often. Let's look at this real quick. So if the full write is on 55, then 56 and 57 should be deltas. So whenever it gets 56 and 57, we should also be seeing that print. So doing the read for 55, which is going to be a full read, normal, and then doing the read for 56, which should be delta. So what happens is we should be seeing do read for so-and-so, and then, because that's called from this here, it's calling the read delta, and oh, you know what? It's not going to call the float because the float's not changing. That actually could make sense. All right. That means I have to change the direction every single tick. for these tests to actually make sense. So otherwise, it's not going to call read delta on the single if the single's not changed. All right, clear. Let that run just for just a moment. I know it's broken as hell up in the client. All right. So this is doing a full write on 99. So if I go up here to 99, I thought I had to sneeze again. It was coming. It didn't happen though. So we're doing a read for 99. We should not see the delta. So we're doing a read for 100 and 101 where we should both see the delta because the value is changing. So let's check that real quick. My God, I swear these sneezes just are like, I'm going to sneeze, and it's like, no, I'm not. That's why I keep pausing and muting my mic, so sorry about that. So 100 and 101 should say read single delta, and it is saying that, and it's saying that for both of them. All right, so that looks right. I can actually just go ahead and print out the value too. Forgot to return it. Yeah, I'm gonna be wrapping up here any second. Just want to do a few more tests while it's fresh on the brain, just to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. Okay, that is so busted. All right. So let's see, 111, full right. I could print too if it's a full write as well, but I'd have to modify the codegen for that. So I'm just gonna do this real quick and then modify the codegen after if this doesn't seem to check out. So I'm not expecting a delta read on the single here because it's a full write. It should be a delta read, and that's the case. Should be a delta read of 1 and a -1 for 112 and 113. The 112 is 1, correct? And sorry, let me just double check something. Something's right. Okay. So, seeing the read twice is not wrong because this is the redundancy. It just skips it. But what is wrong is this is showing a delta of 1 and then it's showing for 113 a delta of 0, but then for 112 it's showing a delta of 2. So I think what's I think I know what's going on. I have an idea. Yeah, and actually what's going on I think is making sense here. I think it is the read method. Let me check something real quick. Oh. Yeah, so it's got to be the read method. Double checking everything. Yeah, I haven't updated the read method properly yet. So what's going on basically is that whenever I go to the write method here, it's only right. It's a redundancy of 2, right? But um, the list has 3 values in it. So basically, it's only if the count is, let's say, 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess 0 index 0, 1, 2, and the redundancy is 2. It's only going to write 1 and 2, and it's going to write these as deltas. But in order to write the delta for 1, it has to reference 0. So it's going to write the deltas between 0 and 1, and then the deltas between 1 and 2, except on the conditions here where we do a full serialize for eventual consistency. Now, that's proper. Like, that looks proper. However, we go to the reader, we are passing in. Sorry, let me get back to the main part, start of it. All right, so we're passing in a buffer here, which is just the place to store the replicates, the ones that are red. It's not like the past red replicates or anything like that. So we're passing in the buffer to store the replicates and the starting tick of the first read. That way we can apply the tick as we read it. As you can see here, that's what's being done. So basically what's happening is the reason the full serialize was working is because it did not need previous data to read the value. It was just reading the full serialize. Didn't need any delta information. That's why that was working. However, when using deltas, it's not, the previous value is always default. I'm not actually passing in the legitimate previous value. So that's why it's wrong. That actually makes sense. That's not really anything difficult. That should have been like a duh. So what I'm gonna do is one final test before I log off here is go to my writer, and I'm just going to do this again, where if it's the first write, it's going to, does it show it gray? Okay. Anyway, if it's the first write, it's going to full serialize without using the previous value. So I do need to actually do, I'm going to do t previous, no, I'm just going to, do previous equals default, so there is no previous value, which it shouldn't matter because it's not using it in the first write anyway, but that I think is going to fix it. Because that means it's always using a full write on the first entry, which is not what we want because we're losing like 50% of our savings, give or take, by doing that. But if it will test if it's solving the problem, that's great. Yeah, and that looks like that did solve the issue. I'm going to make it move more than just one tick here, though, just to double check, because it stands out a lot more when it's going in a straight line. Change that back to 15. Okay, off it goes. All right. Yeah, it's working right now. So that's all it is. It is the reader. And it's not even the Delta reader either. The Cogent, I believe, is perfect. That's great. I think it's just the fact that I'm not passing in the previous value to the reader, and that was absolutely what caused the issues we saw. So I'm going to comment this out. No, sorry, I'm going to uncomment that and then cancel full right there, and then I'm going to comment that out. Okay, So this is where we had before, where we were looking at about 95% savings. That's about our goal. All I need to do is just basically make it so that the network behavior can cache the previously read value and pass that into the read replicate as a previous value, so that we can get that delta and apply it towards that value. And that should be pretty easy to do. And we actually have a replicate history here that's already being passed into this. So I could probably just use this here and compare to it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very difficult at all. It seems like I already have everything I need to be able to pull it off. So yeah, that sounds good to me though. Been streaming for about an hour and a half. Yeah, 1:37. I'm going to go ahead and take off. Thanks everybody for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.